What's up, YouTube? This is Gresnick, and welcome back to another reaction video. Today, we are reacting to The Food Theorist. Food Theory. Who's still keeping Long John Silver's in business? I don't know what Long John Silver's is. I've never heard of this place. So, I don't know what could be keeping them in business since I've never heard of them. But, as always, like and subscribe to the Food Theorists and myself. Comment down below anything you'd like me to react to, or just anything. I'll most likely respond, and let's get into the video.
This is Long John Silver's, a nautical-themed
Okay.
chain restaurant that has been serving baskets of battered pollock and hush puppies since the 60s. But when was the
Ooh.
last time anyone's ever been to one? Hello, Internet! Welcome.
Okay. I was guessing it was a restaurant since this is food theory, but I've like genuinely never heard of this place. So I guess that's gonna be like one of the parts of this theory is the fact that who's keeping it in business when I haven't even heard of this place before. No clue.
Welcome to Food Theory, the show that's always sailing the 7 seas in search of fast food answers. Like a few months ago, when we did a whole episode dedicated to figuring out who was somehow keeping Arby's in business. A video you all
Arby's
love.
is
Y'all love this.
delicious. I love Arby's. It's a good restaurant. It's just a bit expensive. Their fries are the bomb. You can buy them in stores. I would start doing that. They're delicious.
So much that we've decided to do a whole nother episode, but this time dedicated to a different, inexplicably successful fast food restaurant, Long John Silver's. Shoutouts to Gabetsky, who suggested this idea on the Arby's video, because you and you and Tay are on the same wavelength. Tay was all like, Santi, you're my best friend and are so cool for doing the Arby's episode. Please continue to be super awesome and do a Long John Silver's episode, please. And how could I say no to that? They hate me. But seriously, I got curious about it too. Considering how prevalent seafood-based food poisoning is, going to the McDonald's of seafood sounds like a choice. But
Yeah, no, that
someone
sounds like a
must be
terrible
keeping this
decision.
forgotten fast food establishment in business, and I don't care if I have to dive down to Davy Jones's locker, I'm gonna find it. In fact, while plunging the briny deep, I stumbled upon this. And I'm not sure, but if you and I follow this treasure map to a T, we should find our answer. Ominous! But I really hope I do, because after doing some preliminary research, Long John has had a rough ride. And from the looks of it, the only thing that could have kept them in business is Jesus. But before we can set out on our adventure, for those of you who have never been to or heard of Long John
Never
Silver's,
heard
let me
of this
catch you up.
place.
Long John Silver's is one of the OG fast food seafood joints, opening its first ever
okay.
store in Lexington, Kentucky in August of 1969.
Nice.
And almost immediately, it was a massive hit. Unlike the McDonald's and Burger Kings of the world, who mostly just slung burgers and fries, Long John Silver's offered a completely new and exciting menu for customers to enjoy. We're talking golden fried shrimp, tender and crispy oysters, and what seafood restaurant would be complete without some fish and chips? But while their menu certainly was different from the burger big boys, they weren't the only fish in the sea. Long John Silver's also had to beat off Captain D's and Arthur Treacher's, two other fast fish chains that were also erected in '69.
What did he say?
But in the long run, Long John won out, eventually cornering around 65% of the fast fish market at its peak. And they weren't just big for a fish chain, they were going toe-to-toe with other titans of the fast food industry. By the 1980s, Long John Silver's had expanded from just one store in Lexington to over 1,500 locations across the US. To put that into perspective, around the same time, Burger King had over 2,000 locations and Taco Bell around 1,600. And speaking of locations,
Taco
where
Bell.
Long John Silver's are located also seem to help its meteoric rise. If you look at a map of Long John Silver's locations today, you'll notice that they're
Let's see
mostly
if it goes.
concentrated in the Midwest and Texas. Heck, there's not one, not two, but 7 Long John Silver's in Indianapolis alone. Hey, Indy, you 7 concentrated in
I want to see the concentration. Because I have legitimately never seen one of these. And actually, looking at this map, I see none of them. There's like 4 in my state, and it's on like the opposite side of the state from where I live. That's crazy. Yeah, no wonder I've never heard of it. But then again, I don't ever go looking for seafood restaurants. I'm not the biggest fan of seafood.
the Midwest and Texas. Heck, there's
Actually,
not
pretty
one,
tasty
not
every once in a
two, but
while.
7 Long John Silver's in Indianapolis alone. Hey, Indy, you good? But while setting up your seafood place away from, where fish live may sound like a logistical nightmare, there's actually a good reason for it.
Yeah, because then people farther away from where the fish are have less access to the fish, so they're going to eat fish at the fish restaurant. Makes good sense.
Unlike coastal cities, whose plentiful access to the sea leads to an
They have
overabundance
so
of
many
seafood
fish
joints, Long John
restaurants.
Silver's managed to fill a gap where the seafood scene was a bit dry. Throw in a nautical-themed decor that made you feel like you just stepped onto the docks at Cape Cod, and you had a recipe for success. But speaking of recipes, of course, a good fish shop would also be nothing without its fish. Long John Silver's uses wild-caught Alaskan pollock. Pollock has a mild flavor and is super flaky, all while being super inexpensive to catch. Heck, it's even caught in a very sustainable way compared to many fish. It's no wonder why Long John Silver's, and indeed all of your fast food fish sandwiches, reel in pollock for their fish dishes. And so for Long John Silver's, everything was lined up perfectly for them to become a dominant fast food powerhouse, up there with the burger and chicken juggernauts. They had a low-cost, delicious, and diverse menu compared to other fast food giants, all while managing to grow and outcompete other seafood chains. But clearly, as evidenced by the lack of Long John Silver's dotting every street corner in America today, the nautical-themed chain eventually ran aground. And listen, Long John Silver's may have gone through a rough patch, but that's because they didn't hear what I'm about to say about our partner for today, Chime. And I know that you're no fool like Long John, so your combos, which is outrageous, almost as outrageous as Chime offering a $350 bonus with qualifying direct deposit. So go to chime.com/foodtheory.
Use their code to support them. They're not sponsoring me, so I don't care.
And thank you, Chime, for sponsoring today's
Support
episode.
the
Now let's get
theorists.
to it to find out the secret to who's keeping Long John Silver's alive today. Hold on tight, because if Long John Silver's made it through these choppy seas, so shall we. As I mentioned earlier, most of Long John Silver's success came in the 1970s and 80s. This is when they expanded out to 1,500 restaurants and even started dabbling a bit overseas. Get it? Sell 5. But today, the number of Long John Silver's sits south of 500. Long John Silver's has had such a fall off that it even became the butt of the joke in some forgettable 2010s rom-coms.
This is actually a very fashion-forward outfit.
No, you look like the wallpaper from the Long John Silver's bathroom.
But what was it that caused this once plucky seafood restaurant to spring a leak? Let's just say they took some heavy cannon fire, some of which was self-inflicted. For example, in 1989, Jericho Inc., Long John Silver's parent company, attempted to take the company private and did so via a business maneuver known as a leveraged buyout. Basically, a leveraged buyout is when you agree to buy a company by taking out a massive debt and saddling the company with that debt. If this sounds familiar, yes, this is the exact same technique that Elon Musk used to buy Twitter in 2022. You know, a famously good business deal that has been great for everyone involved.
No. I don't feel Twitter wasn't good before Elon bought it. Him buying it just made it worse.
For Long John Silver's, this leveraged buyout meant that they had $275 million worth of high-interest debt that was now on the books. But come on, it was the 80s. LJS was flying high. The numbers had only gone up and would continue to go up forever, right? Right? While this one decision wasn't the only thing that was working against Long John Silver's, it certainly was an anchor dragging the company down, making their other problems much worse. The first thing working against them, they weren't alone in these waters. Rival seafood places like Bonefish Grill, Bubba Gump Shrimp, and Red Lobster were all circling Long John's ship. Heck, there are even more Captain D's in this world today than Long John Silver's. Captain D's! And part of the reason for this decline was the food. Yeah, turns out deep-fried Alaskan pollock and deep-fried cornmeal batter was, gasps in Spanish, unhealthy. But all kidding aside, this proved to be a big deal since Americans in the 2000s and 2010s became a lot more health conscious, even with their fast food. This was the supersize me era, after all. Yet, in a world of unhealthy fast food joints, Long John Silver's managed to set itself apart. See, prior to 2014, Long John Silver's cooked their fish in partially hydrogenated oil, aka trans fats. Fats, as a whole, tend to get a bad rap in the public eye, but fats are necessary for our bodies bodies
you.
to do that living thing they like to do. The fats we ingest can be broken down into three main categories: unsaturated fats, saturated fats, and trans fats. Most ultra-processed foods we eat usually have a high level of the last two, otherwise known as the bad kind, and the ones you should be keeping an eye out for in your food. Saturated fats are found in meat and dairy products and aren't the worst, but it's best to keep them in check because in excess, they can cause health issues. Trans fats are the worst kind of fat because they literally provide zero nutritional benefit and there's no amount that's safe, so they should be avoided altogether. They're essentially the Tom of fats. And the big problem with trans fats is they raise your bad cholesterol. Once again, cholesterol is one of those things you tend to hear talked about in a bad way, but in reality, it's a substance that helps your body make cell membranes, hormones, and even vitamin D. The problem comes in how it's transported around your body. The two big ones you'll hear about are LDL and HDL. You can think of them as the bad and good guys respectively. LDL, or low density lipoprotein, is basically a delivery service, taking cholesterol from your liver and dropping it off at cells that need it to build hormones, repair tissue, and generally keep the lights on. But when there's too much LDL floating around, that delivery service starts dumping excess cholesterol where it doesn't belong, like along the walls of your arteries, leading to plaque buildup and increased risk of heart disease. So trans fats raise your LDL cholesterol and simultaneously lower your HDL cholesterol. All of that increases your risk.
I really like the Food Theorist channel because along with your fun, cool theories, you also just get a health lesson out of it when it comes to food, which is very important since I don't have another, or haven't found a good other way to figure that out besides I guess school, but at this point school teaches us terribly, so yeah, this is useful. This is actually cool stuff to learn because I didn't know there's 3 types of fats, but I knew that not all the fats were bad. Like, thank you for teaching me.
Of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes while providing essentially no health benefits whatsoever. But it tastes good. But in 2013, Long John Silver's released what is arguably the most unhealthy item in fast food history, the Big Catch, featuring a huge piece of their classic battered pollock that was 3 times bigger than their normal piece, fried onion rings, and 2 hush puppies. The meal certainly was a big detriment to your health. The meal topped out at a gargantuan 1,320 calories. That's nearly over 2.25 Big Macs for those of you that are counting. The Big Catch also contained 3,700 milligrams of sodium, 19 grams of saturated fat, and, are you ready kids, 33 grams of trans fat. According to the American Heart Association, that's over 2 weeks worth of the maximum daily intake of trans fats. It's no wonder that the Big Catch was labeled the worst restaurant meal in America, and a heart attack on a hook by a watchdog group who dove into the numbers. Worst of all, it was a ripoff. According to that same group, something like 40% of the weight of that big piece of pollock was just the breading. And despite eliminating the Big Catch the year it was released and ditching partially hydrogenated oil and adding in other healthier options like grilled fish and shrimp, the reputation stuck. Long John Silver's also had some questionable marketing choices over the years. Not to be outdone by Ronald McDonald and the King, LJS added their own terrifying mascot character, introducing Chairman Norman Big Fish.
I just left the boys in planning, and Long John Silver's is gonna give America more bang for its buck.
Ah, yes. What do children love more than terrifying fish monsters? C-suite executives. Hard to imagine he couldn't hook new customers. All of this, combined with the rising cost of fish globally and the tons of debt from the leveraged buyout, only served to drag Long John Silver's reputation further and further down. Long John Silver's would continue to change hands over the years. After its parent company went bankrupt in 1998, the company was sold to A&W and opened up combo locations. In 2002, it was sold to Yum Brands, makers of KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut, who also opened more combo locations. Since then, it's been sold 2 more times to various groups of private investors and franchisees. But you know what? It's still here, gosh darn it. The mast may be broken, the sail might be ripped, and the hull is filled with cannon fire, but she's still sailing. Despite all forces conspiring to sink her for good, from the unhealthy food to being sold more times than a filet of fish, somehow they've stayed afloat. But who is responsible? In recent years, Long John Silver's has managed to put a steady hand on the rudder and turn this ship around. They've streamlined operations and modernized their restaurants. As a result, they've seen a recent uptake in sales. Long John Silver's has also dipped their toe in loyalty rewards programs, launching the Secret Society in 2024, which is has somehow already amassed over 700,000 members. Long John Silver's also recognized one of the biggest trends happening in the world of fast food, the chicken renaissance. That's right, the brand, who has thrived on fish for decades, recently did an AHOB-style announcement where they emphasized that chicken was co-equal with fish on the menu. And apparently, according to Joshua Weissman, the chicken ain't half bad. In his best chicken tenders ranking video, our favorite fish place scored #1. But the problem is, that doesn't tell us who's been—
It's so funny when a restaurant that's known, or like specifically like fish themed, obviously in this example, or like beef themed, adds chicken to the menu and their chicken is genuinely delicious. Like it's so funny to me when that happens. Because I swear some places where like their main thing is chicken, it ain't good.
keeping them in
It's
business,
so
because despite them making
funny.
some admittedly impressive moves to claw or swim their way back into the mainstream, that's a bar. That is
That's a good
bar.
one.
The question remains, who's been keeping them around long enough for them to make these moves? Who? It doesn't make any sense. But we're here, finally at the X, and I don't see the answer. Oh, wow, it's like an actual fish. Okay.
I am the great and powerful
Wizard of Cod?
Technically, I'm a Pollock.
Oh, so like Long John Pollock?
You can just call me Mike.
I won't. But please, nothing is giving me the answer I want. Just tell me who's keeping you in business.
The Catholics!
The what now?
What?
Huh,
Catholics?
so it was Jesus. Yeah, turns out that
What?
Catholics, of all people, are actually the ones holding the ship together, and it all has
Ow.
to do with Lent. You see, Lent is a 40-day holiday between Ash Go Away, clearly not talking about you, Wednesday, and Easter that is celebrated by Catholics, as well as a few other Christian denominations. And as part of the
That's
observance, Catholics
funny.
abstain from eating any meat on Fridays during Lent. Well, there is one exception to that rule: fish. During a typical Lenten season, Long John Silver's says that they move as much as 20 million pieces of fish, as well as 450,000 shrimp, which counts as fish for Lent. In fact, that 40-day
Yeah,
period accounts for, and I'm not making this up, around 20% of Long John Silver's entire annual sales.
Damn, that's
1/5! And Long John Silver's
bit.
isn't the only company that's figured out the power of the Catholics. Why do you think the fillet of fish exists? Turns out the reason Mickey D's added it to the menu in 1962 was because some franchises saw a noticeable dip in sales during Fridays in Lent, particularly in Catholic neighborhoods. So the Catholics have been what have kept Long John Silver's afloat long enough for them to finally make some strong business decisions and right the ship. So yeah, the only reason Long John Silver's hasn't been made to walk the plank, a little Catholic guilt. And to that I say, amen? But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Buen provecho.
Okay, that's actually pretty funny. I enjoy that. I have never once heard of this restaurant, but its story is hilarious in my opinion. Man. Okay, that was a pretty good video. Well, as always, like and subscribe to the Food Theorists and myself. Comment down below anything you want me to react to, or just how you're feeling. I'll probably respond. And have a good day. Goodbye!